So our next project are these little mini books that you're going to make yourself. This one has a little ribbon to keep it closed. We're going to create a basket weave cover, and when you pull the two covers open, you're going to reveal a beautiful line design inside. The line design will be of your choice, and I can show you how to make this one. Actually, I have a pretty good YouTube video to send to you. And there it is. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find an old book that we don't mind ruining. I've been using this book for a lot of things because I love the paper, and I know that as I said earlier, this paper is going to be much nicer than printer paper for the project. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull out 3 pages, and you can go from the middle. Sometimes it's a little easier to go from one end, and you should pay attention to what's on the page because it's going to show up, you know, it's going to be part of your project. So, you know, if you have front and back cover pages that are blank, maybe that would be nice for you. There's 2 blank ones. I could make this the inside. Or you might like whatever it is you're finding on the page. Maybe we even have an illustrated book, and you could use that. So I want text, and so I'm sort of going from the middle of the book. I'll go a little closer to the front, and I'm going to press on the spine at the corner and pull. Now, if you want to, you could use, if you have an X-Acto blade, you could gently score it and pull out your pieces, but not everybody has these, and so I'm teaching you this way so you can pull it. Now, I now have 3 of these. I've already done 2, and one of them came out really badly. You see how badly it ripped, right? Look at that edge. But that's all right, and the reason for that is because we're going to cut this edge off. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm now going to run along, and I don't have to draw a line, because if I just go along the text, that's a line. In art, that's what we call an implied line. And then in order to get a perfect square, if you take the corner of this and you fold it over and you line it up nicely, you don't even have to crease it. You can just hold it and draw a line along this edge. You now have an indication of where to cut it. There's a pencil line there. So I'm going to cut along that line. And when I'm done, I'm going to have a perfect square. So this is 5 inches by 5 inches. Fabulous. So scraps to the side. The next page, cut them out, and end up with 3 5-inch squares. I want to be sure that I clarify something. So in my book, I'm cutting off one edge, right? But I need to cut off the same edge every time, because when this was printed, the border here is smaller than here. And so in order to get exactly the same size squares, I need to cut off that inside, the one that was near the binding, right? The one where you ripped. That's the edge I'm cutting from, because the 2 blank borders are not the same, and you want to get exactly 3 squares that are exactly the same size. Okay, so you have your 3 equal 5-inch pieces of paper. Maybe yours aren't 5, maybe it depends on your book, right? But they're square. So I eventually want these pieces of paper to look like this, so that when I close them, it folds into a little, actually this is 2.5, it's exactly half the size of my paper. And I'm gonna put covers on these, right? So right now we're just focusing on the pages and getting this to happen. Okay, so the first thing you do is you fold in both directions. I actually pre-folded these for the sake of speed, but you're basically going to fold each of your squares in both directions. Be very careful to try to line it up, right? Line it up so you have a nice even fold. Great. Okay, they're all folded the same way. So the next thing is that if you notice, if you sort of squeeze both of these, do you see that I have like a little cup, or what I call a valley? This one is a valley. If I turn it the other way, I have a mountain. There's the point. And this one, of course, is also a valley. So it's valley, mountain, valley. Why? Well, because I'm going to connect them together like so with glue. And as you can see, if I glue these together, I haven't done it yet, but if I glue these together, I will be able to, there they are glued together. I've actually only paper clipped this side because I'm experimenting to see if it's easier to draw when they're connected or when they're not connected. So this is what our teacher does when they're test driving a lesson. So you can see the mountain and the two valleys, and when I teach you how to fold them, you will see that you end up with this little tiny book. We'll put a cover on this and decorate it. All right, so how do you get that? Well, first of all, let me teach you how to fold it into half its size. You have folded it this way and this way. If you take one of the valleys and you bring two sides together, like so, and then you lay down this side on the table, push, you can see that it's collapsing into a square. There it is. Now if I push this down as well, this is going to, and you're making a fold now, there's no fold there yet, right? If I push down and line it up and then crease, I end up with this little 5-inch square of paper that will fold itself down into a 2-inch square. Not quite lined up, so I'm going to ask the paper to shift a little bit, lining up that point, and then I now have a nice little square. And when I open it, there's my valley. Okay, so this is a mountain. So I'm gonna do the same thing, but when I'm done, I'm gonna turn it back over this way. So let's do it again. Let me show you again. You're gonna bring two sides together. Let's bring these two together because they seem to wanna go. Bring these two together. I hold it here, they're lined up, and then I push down, and immediately my piece of paper wants to turn into a square. And then if I push this down as well, let go and press, I get this perfect little square that also, again, opens up. Now I'm gonna make that the mountain again. Remember, we want valley, mountain, valley. Let's do this last one. So here we have it folded, right? I'm gonna bring these two together. I'm gonna set this down on the table and push this down as well. And it will eventually cooperate. Keep an eye on how it's gonna fold before you crease, and there's a square. Okay, I'm ready to glue. If you don't have glue, I'll also show you how you can tape them. All right, so they're going to interlock like that. That's gonna go like this, and that's gonna go like that. So I'm gonna start by gluing this to this. I'm gonna turn this over. This is my square. Open it up a little bit. And, okay, here we go. I'm gonna put some glue. I'm trying to just put a thin stream of glue and get all areas. Don't want a big blobby thing, it'll be a mess. So this is on pretty thin. So I'm gonna overlap it, set it down, give it a little squeeze, make sure it's connected all the way. Lovely. Okay, and then this guy's going here. So I'm going to, back to my glue. Oh, I was gonna show you how to do tape. All right, maybe you don't have glue in your house. So you can tape these. I'm gonna take a little piece of tape just to tack it where I want it. So I'm gonna set it down because I'm gonna work from the front at first. I'm actually gonna wanna remove this afterward, but this is the easiest way to make sure it's lined up. Line it up so that it's gonna fold nicely. There it is. And I'm gonna put a little piece of tape here and a little piece of tape here, because I don't want those to show and I wanna draw in here. So while it's taped that way, I'll turn it over and I will put a more substantial piece, and that's a little too long, on the back, right? You're not gonna be able to see this, so put it on the back. Take another piece and put it here. There we go. And then of course you'll need to crease that tape. There we go. All right, and so we collapse it. And there we have it. You're going to want to leave it standing open for that glue to dry. You don't want to smush it and then put it underneath something, because if any of the glue has oozed, if you use glue, it can it can glue itself shut. So I always leave it hanging open. I leave it hanging open to dry. So, what is the goal? Well, once we make this into a book, a folding book of sorts, or origami sculpture that closes and opens like this. I call it a book. It's a little tiny book, especially if we put a cover on it. So we're going to focus on line designs. So I have 2 of them going now. And so in this one, I chose to run lines right next to each other, and I made them very organic. There's no geometric shapes or hard edges. Everything sort of flows. So when you open it up, and I have it flowing across from a mountain, a valley into a mountain. And I haven't finished on this one. I'm going to keep going. So that's one option. So how do you decide what line design to do? Well, I recommend that you get your computer and you type in cool line designs to draw, and you are going to, and then when it comes up, you want to click on images, and you will get all kinds of really cool designs. I don't know if you can see them on my screen, but an array of different cool things you can do with line, and you can copy one of them. Some of them are more complicated than others. So I've always been fascinated by this design, and I'd never tried it before. So I found the design, and lo and behold, when I clicked on it, it took me to a YouTube video that showed me exactly how to do it. Of course, there's an ad, run by the ad, and then this person did this right in front of me on the screen here. I'm watching them do it. And so I was like, oh, that's how they make that design. So here I am trying it. Now, I've discovered a little pitfall to this, and that is you have to keep the lines pretty close together in order to get this sort of 3D effect. So I'm going to continue with this design. I'm using a marker. I'm going right at it with the marker. You may feel nervous to do that, but if you do it in pencil, you then need to do it in pen or marker, and that's double the work. So here I have my triangle, and I'm going to start in this corner, and the goal is to simply travel slightly away from the line, and then go back and begin right at that same point and travel slightly away from the line. See, that's too much. This is what I've learned by doing this. Start at the point and travel slightly away. So there's a little space here. And I will connect this link so that you guys can go and see it done right on the screen. It's a lot better, and the person's better at it because they've been doing it a while. The nice thing about the first design that I made is that it's very organic, and so it can go in any direction you want it to. You really can't goof. This approach is I'm trying to actually get an end result that's very specific. And if that floats your boat, go for it. But if that seems daunting. Okay, so I'm beginning to get this like fan thing that's happening. It looking three-dimensional. That's my first one right here, which I think is weak. I got a little better at it here and a little better at it here. And it's starting to look kind of cool. But this one, I simply allowed my pen and my brain, lie it down, come on, to make it up as I go along. I'm just putting one line next to the other as close as possible. And then every once in a while, I put a dot because it adds interest. So the idea is that when you open this up, when somebody opens this up, there's a nice little surprise inside, and that this cool design arrives. So you're working a little 3D and you're also working 2D.